What is happening, guys? Welcome back to Redbeard's Garage, and we're continuing on the YZ450 build. Today we got a lot of things to knock off the list. In the next video, we're going to be starting this thing up for the first time. So we got a lot of little things to knock out. So let's get right into it and mount the air box and get the intake tube made. And then we'll progress on through the list. All right, so the factory Yamaha Coolant lines is wide off because of the door radiators. We don't need this. So I crudely cut out a piece of 14 gauge steel. I'm going to TIG weld it over the Y portion. I'm going to leave the straight up valve, and then I'll shape it with a grinder after it's TIG welded to block off that port. We get this knocked out real quick, and then everything is done with our coolant lines other than getting the broke off bolt out of the block with this coolant line. Bolted up, snapped off. I think it was seized in there just for heat and moisture. All right, got her on 113 amps. Got the gas on. Showing up due. So the box is all done, and the reason for this is our clutch cable and our throttle cable on the dirt bike engine isn't long enough, and it's a special type cable. None of the cables like we get from Go Power Sports will work. So what we're gonna do is use Go Power Sports cables on the front side of the buggy from the pedals, and then we'll go back to this distribution box, and basically the cables will go in one side. We'll connect the actual steel part of the cable on the inside, and the original cables from the dirt bike will go in this side. Then we can make a gasket for this, bolt this cover on, and we got a waterproof box that if we ever need to swap out a cable, we just open it up and take apart like a little ferrule thing in there, and we can swap out. I've been doing this for a long time with electrical boxes, like just regular house electrical boxes, but now I can build whatever with the plasma table. This only took 30 minutes to an hour to build, you know, to make the CAD file, cut it, TIG weld it all out, and I think it looks really good. Now I can use my laser cutter and cut some sort of gasket for it. I don't know if I'll use rubber or what, but we have a distribution box now, and we can use self-tappers and just self-tap in there. So now we can get our cable set up, kind of get our clutch and our throttle hooked up, and we're that much closer on the buggy. All right, now that we have all of our wires trimmed down to size, we don't want them to fray, of course. So one thing, I think I learned this on a YouTube video that an older man had made years ago, but basically I'm gonna take this ring terminal, and it's a closed in ring terminal, and I'm gonna fill it up with solder. So I have a bunch of old random strands of solder, and I'm gonna heat it up with a torch and fill it up and make a big puddle in there. And before I do that, I'm gonna take some rosin, some flux or whatever, put on my cable so it'll accept a lot of it. And then once I got a pull in there, I can dip all my cables and it tins the end of them so they won't flare out. Super handy, super easy to do. So that's what I want to do now to all four cables, and then our throttle and clutch is done. I'm gonna get a good old dab on there. Dab'll do ya. Dab'll do ya. Now fire and hold. Okay, so next we're going to attack the oil system on this buggy. We built the tank a couple videos ago, but we have to trim the clearance for the outlet of the tank. We did 6 AN lines, which roughly have about a 3/8-ish internal diameter, and I matched that from the factory oil lines off the dirt bike. We haven't pressure tested anything either, but the factory oil lines on a YZ450 look like this. This is a bulkhead that bolts to the frame, or to the engine, I'm sorry, and then inside it has a lip for a sleeve that helps to align it, and then an O-ring. So that's all it is, and it goes from this hard line to a flex line, and the actual frame of the bike was the oil tank on the YZ450. So we cut that off. Then I took a 6 AN line and bored it out a little bit with a drill bit, so that sleeves inside, and now I can TIG weld this AN fitting to this. And that's going to work good on the left-hand side, or sorry, the right-hand side of the motor. On the left-hand side, we're going to have to do something different. So here's the left hand. The bend was made to tuck right alongside the engine, so if I was to weld this on, it would interfere with the block and I wouldn't be able to get an AN fitting on there. So what I'm gonna have to do is cut this off and close up. Hopefully this cast isn't horrible, but I'm gonna have to TIG weld this up, and then I'm gonna drill a hole in the top side of this, and I'm gonna TIG weld this bung right there. So that's how the left-hand side is gonna be. So we're gonna get all this fitted, get it bolted on the engine. As soon as my little sleeves get here, then we can clearance for that oil tank, and then we'll basically have coolant lines done, all with the coolant, oil lines, throttle, clutches done, and now we just have to worry about shifter and a few odds and ends on the thing. We're getting really close though.
All right guys, we are in the home stretch on the YZ450. All we have to do is weld out the frame anywheres that I can possibly get to without fully disassembling it, so we can do the first ride. And we need to put the recluse clutch in so we don't have to worry about bogging it in the woods, because this is a kickstart engine, but we have a plan to do electric start with the charging system. We still won't have reverse, but we have a good plan of using the block of a four-wheeler engine. One of my buddies at Lansdowne Family Racing has a spare block that we can take all my parts out of this engine and put it in that, and that will give us the electric start, and then we can put the high output charging system, this aftermarket charging system, so we can have lights and stuff on the buggy. So shifter and recluse clutch, weld out the frame next, and then we're going to start it in the next video. So the very next time you see this thing, we're going to try to at least ease it around a little bit to see if everything's working properly, see how the gearing is, and if everything's good, we're going to romp it hard. So stay tuned for that. Massive shout out to Go Power Sports. Thank you so much for sponsoring this build. We got all of our cables, our steering from them. We did a lot of parts. We used one of their race axles on the rear and their bearings. So we used a lot of affordable parts, as well as the shocks on this is from Go Power Sports. So stay tuned to the next one. Well, we will be riding this thing, at least starting it and driving it a little bit, if nothing. So we're in the home stretch. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. Remember, we love you, God loves you, and we'll see you on the next one. God bless.